So Adcore's fourth quarter results are out, and today we'll go through them to see how this company is progressing. As you know, Adcore, ticker ADCO, is a position of mine, and even though the stock went up 45% over the last 2 weeks, I believe it still has a ton of upside to deliver. And why do I say that? Because, well, Adcore's enterprise value stands at only 4 million Canadian, as we can see here, while the company posted 32 million in revenue in 2025. Besides, Adcore has no debt, is close to profitability, and lastly, is already generating free cash flow. So I really think the market is completely mispricing this company. I mean, Adcore might not be the best business in the world, yes, that's true, but come on. It certainly doesn't deserve an enterprise value to sales multiple of only 0.1 times. So honestly, even if Adcore business doesn't improve, I still think the stock could go up massively, just because of the multiple expansion factor. In any case, I think I've already made my point clear. For me, Adcore is still very cheap. And today, as I said, we'll talk about their fourth quarter results to see how their business is going. Before we begin though, as always, nothing in this video is investment advice, okay? And with that said, let's get started. So, starting with revenue. As we can see here, Adcore's revenue is kind of stagnated. In fact, it actually dropped on an annual basis, going from 34 million in 2024 to 32.7 million in 2025, according to Seeking Alpha. On a quarterly basis though, revenue went up a bit, going from 11.7 million in the fourth quarter of 2024 to 11.9 million. Now, why did that happen? Why did revenue grow so little? You see, Adcore is actually a global company. It might still be small in terms of market cap, but it actually operates globally. They have clients in North America, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia. The thing is that revenue is falling both in Europe and in North America. In fact, in North America, revenue is dropping violently. As we can see here, in 2025 alone, revenue in that region went down 44%. So that's why Adcore's overall revenue is not growing much, because it is being pushed down by the North American and European regions. However, I believe Adcore will soon start growing again. And why do I say that? Because even though revenue might be falling in North America, the truth is that this region represents only 9% of Adcore's business today. So it's kind of like this division doesn't really have much room left to fall anymore. Europe, on the other hand, is a different story, since it represents about 1/3 of Adcore's revenue. So yeah, if Europe continues falling, that could indeed affect Adcore's overall growth. However, here's the good thing. Adcore is growing massively in the Asia-Pacific region. As we can see here, this region grew 40% last year, accounting for more than 60% of Adcore's business today. So, here's what I think will happen. I think revenue from this region will continue growing, and it will likely become so large over the long run that Europe and North America won't make much difference. Now, for those looking to invest outside the US, outside North America, right? Adcore might be a very good option, since it is becoming a kind of Asian market play. But that's why I believe revenue will keep growing in the long run, because of the Asia-Pacific region. Anyway, moving on, regarding gross margin, on an annual basis, it went down from 41% in 2024 to 39%, right? The same happened on a quarterly basis as well. Gross margin declined when compared to the same period in 2024, going from 34.5% to only 31.2%, and the scenario actually gets even worse when we compare last quarter to the previous ones in 2025. I mean, gross margin was at roughly 44% in the first quarter and at almost 50% in the second. Today though, we are at only 30%. Now, I didn't understand why that happened, and the company also didn't talk much about it in their conference call, saying only that gross profitability remained relatively stable, with a decrease of 2%, mainly due to a change in client mix. But I will try to interview them again so we can better understand that point, because you see, I wasn't actually expecting that. My initial thesis was that gross margin was going to expand as the company scales its technology division, its apps. In any case, let's try to talk to them to better understand these things. Moving on, regarding operating losses. In 2025, Adcore posted an operating loss of 1 million Canadian, which was slightly worse than in 2024, but in any case, they still remain close to break-even, considering their operating margin stands at only -3%. In other words, if gross margin expands a little more, or if revenue grows a bit more, we should soon see this number turn positive. So that's why I believe Adcore will become profitable in the not-too-distant future. And lastly, the company finished the year with a net loss of 1.3 million, slightly worse than 2024 again. Now, on a quarterly basis though, Adcore actually delivered an operating profit, but unfortunately ended up posting a net loss of 0.3 million. The numbers again were better last year. Now moving on, talking about Adcore's cash flow statement, the company posted an operating cash flow of 4.1 million, pretty much a record, and 3.3 million in free cash flow, while their net cash position went up, going from 6.5 million to 9.6 million. So with that said, what are my thoughts on Adcore's last numbers? Well, honestly, I wish they were better. Actually, I was expecting growth and margin expansion, but that's the real world, right? You can't always get what you want. But let's try to talk to them, let's try to understand with them why their margins went down and how their technology division is going. But I believe their technology division is still ramping up. Now, with that said, if the Asia-Pacific region keeps growing like this, and if their technology division really starts scaling, then I think we could see some pretty interesting numbers here. But no, I didn't like the results. However, I still think the company will deliver. I still believe Adcore will succeed, and that we will see a huge repricing happening in the stock. Okay, that's it for today, and see you next time.